What if one weekend could change everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and family? Imagine a setting where laughter and warmth fill the air, where the sun sets on cherished memories and the promise of togetherness. But what if beneath that facade, hidden desires and unexpected encounters are waiting to emerge, ready to shatter everything? Meet the Walkers, a seemingly perfect family anchored by the steadfast bond between Jamal and his father, Richard Walker. I stepped into their world with admiration, having married into this family filled with warmth, values, and love. Richard, a man whose wisdom and strength commanded respect, was a guiding figure in my life. I had always looked up to him, seeing him as a mentor, someone whose presence inspired trust and safety. But everything changed one fateful weekend at the family cabin, a retreat that promised relaxation but instead set the stage for an unimaginable encounter. As we gathered, the air was thick with anticipation, and every shared laugh masked an undercurrent of tension that was about to boil over. What was meant to be a simple family getaway turned into something much more complicated. I can still feel the chill of that evening as we shared stories and wine. The boundaries of our relationships blurred under the weight of unspoken thoughts. The cabin, once a sanctuary, became a crucible where desires flickered in the dim light, waiting for the right moment to ignite. What could possibly go wrong in a setting so idyllic? As night fell, the line between right and wrong began to fade, leaving us teetering on the brink of a revelation that would forever alter our lives. Stay with me as we delve into the heart of this unfolding drama, where a single moment of weakness could fracture the trust of a family and turn cherished relationships into a tangled web of betrayal. To truly grasp the events that unraveled that fateful weekend, we must explore the layers of our past and the characters who shaped our lives. I'm Elena Johnson, raised in a close-knit Atlanta community. My single mother instilled in me the values of resilience and loyalty, which guided me into my marriage with Jamal Walker. We met in college, our bond forged through shared passions and dreams. Jamal's laughter filled every room, and his belief that family is everything shaped the foundation of our life together. Richard Walker, my father-in-law, was a man of wisdom and strength. His early life in the South was marked by hardship, making him the father figure I admired. Through his stories of love and loss, he taught me invaluable lessons about family. Despite his stern demeanor, he had a warmth that made me feel embraced within the Walker family. Jamal embodied loyalty, deeply devoted to his family and traditions. He shared a unique bond with Richard, built on mutual respect. Jamal's commitment to family happiness was evident, and I often saw him as a protective son, cherishing the unity that defined them. As we prepared for our weekend at the cabin, excitement filled the air. Flashbacks of family gatherings flooded my mind, lively dinners, heartfelt discussions, and playful arguments that showcased our tight-knit connections. Yet there was always an unspoken tension, like when Richard's glances would linger a moment too long, leaving me confused but intrigued. As we packed for the cabin, I caught Jamal's enthusiasm. But beneath my own anticipation, a flicker of apprehension lingered. What secrets were we harboring? What awaited us in that cabin? The stage was set, and as we embarked on our journey, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. The weekend approached with a sense of excitement that felt almost electric, but beneath the surface, something was shifting. As we made our way to the cabin, I replayed the moments leading up to this trip, each one tinged with a hint of foreboding. It began with a casual conversation over dinner a few nights before. Richard had shared an old family story, his laughter booming, but there was a fleeting moment when our eyes met just a second too long. I brushed it off, attributing it to my overactive imagination. Yet the sensation lingered in the back of my mind, a whisper of something unspoken. As we packed the car, Jamal was full of anticipation, his excitement infectious. He couldn't wait to unwind at the cabin, sharing stories and playing games with his family. But I felt an odd mixture of eagerness and dread. I recalled the tension in the air at our last family gathering when Richard had made a joke that landed a little too close to home, hinting at hidden desires beneath our tight-knit family facades. When we finally arrived at the cabin, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. The smell of pine trees enveloped us, and laughter echoed through the air as we settled in. The evening was filled with shared meals and joyful conversations, the flickering firelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. As the night wore on, the wine flowed freely, and with each glass, inhibitions began to fade. I watched as Richard's gaze lingered on me during the toast, a spark igniting that made my heart race. It was a moment of connection I had never anticipated, and as laughter filled the room, I felt the tension mounting. Little did we know, the warmth of family was a fragile veneer, hiding the stirrings of desire that would soon shatter our peaceful evening. The stage was set for temptation, and as the fire crackled, So did the boundaries we had long held dear. The day was filled with carefree joy as the sun streamed through the tall pines surrounding the cabin. Jamal and Richard tossed a football in the yard, their laughter echoing through the air, while I prepared lunch, stealing glances at them with a smile. Gathered around the table, the warmth of family enveloped us. Richard regaled us with humorous tales, his laughter infectious. "You've outdone yourself with this spread," he exclaimed, his gaze lingering on me. I felt a rush of warmth at his compliment, a flutter of something unacknowledged stirring inside me. "Thank you, Richard. I just wanted to make it special," I replied, trying to play it cool while inside. Something fluttered in awareness that I'd never quite noticed before. As the sun dipped lower, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations became more intimate, and Richard's playful smirks caught my attention. I found myself drawn to him, yet I pushed those thoughts aside, attributing them to the cozy atmosphere. The weekend at the cabin started off with laughter and lighthearted banter, the kind that wraps around you like a warm blanket. My husband Jamal was busy flipping burgers on the grill, the smell of sizzling meat mingling with the fresh pine scent of the woods. In the sun's golden glow, everything felt perfect, almost idyllic. "Remember that time we got lost on that hiking trail?" I teased, glancing at Jamal, who chuckled, shaking his head. "You thought you could read the map, and we ended up at that random campsite." "Dad, my father-in-law," Richard joined in, his laughter booming. "You two have no sense of direction. I still can't believe you got lost with a GPS in hand." His eyes sparkled with amusement as he leaned back in his chair, sipping his drink. As the day stretched on, the atmosphere shifted. The sun dipped below the trees, casting a warm, orange hue over everything. After dinner, we moved inside. The cabin's cozy interior was lit by soft lamps, creating an inviting ambience that felt intimate in a way I hadn't anticipated. "Who's up for a game of cards?" Richard suggested, pulling out a deck. As we gathered around the table, I couldn't help but notice the way he leaned in a little closer to me as we played. It felt electric, a current passing between us that was impossible to ignore. "I don't go easy on her just because she's family," Jamal joked, nudging me playfully. "She'll wipe the floor with you, Dad." Richard smiled, and for a moment, our eyes met. There was an unspoken understanding, a connection that seemed to spark in the air, lingering like the warm summer breeze outside. As the night wore on, laughter turned to more personal conversations. We shifted to the couch, a bottle of wine now shared between us. The first sip sent a rush of warmth through me, making the room feel even cozier. Richard poured us another glass, his gaze lingering on me a fraction longer than usual. "Do you remember your first family gathering?" he asked, breaking the comfortable silence. His voice was smooth, low, filled with a hint of nostalgia. "You were so nervous I could see it from across the room." I admitted, laughing lightly. "I didn't know what to expect. But you made it easy. You always do." Our words flowed easily, weaving stories and memories, each shared moment pulling us closer together. The barriers that usually separate us seemed to fade away, leaving only an inviting warmth that settled deep within me. Then came the pivotal moment. The air thickened as Richard's hand brushed against mine while reaching for the wine. My heart raced, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. It was a fleeting touch, but it lingered, sending a jolt through me. "Let's make a toast," he said, his voice low and intimate. "To family." "To family," I echoed, raising my glass, but something in the way he held my gaze made my breath hitch. The tension hung heavily in the air as we both took a sip, the taste of the wine mingling with an unspoken desire. Then, as the evening wore on and laughter faded to softer tones, Richard leaned in closer. The moment stretched, an electric current pulling us together, and before I knew it, our lips met. It was a kiss that defied boundaries, filled with the warmth of the wine and the weight of everything unspoken. In that instant, the world outside the cabin faded away. The laughter, the teasing, all transformed into something raw and powerful, a kiss that crossed a line, leaving both of us breathless and unsure of what had just transpired. In the days that followed, my mind spiraled with a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I found myself caught in a web of exhilaration and guilt, each thought like a pendulum swinging between the thrill of that stolen moment with Richard and the deep-seated shame that followed. How could I have let it happen? The question echoed endlessly in my mind. Each time I closed my eyes, I could still feel the warmth of his lips, the rush of adrenaline flooding my veins. A part of me reveled in the excitement, a secret I could never share, while another part of me screamed in anguish, "What about Jamal?" As I stared into the mirror each morning, I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. "You're a wife, a mother, you should know better." But the thrill was intoxicating, a dangerous dance of desire and loyalty that left me breathless. Why did it have to feel so right? At family gatherings, the air crackled with tension, unspoken words hanging heavily between us. Richard's gaze felt different, charged, almost electric. Every smile exchanged felt layered, heavy with the weight of our secret. The once familiar comfort was now a tightrope walk, and I found myself navigating it carefully, my heart racing with each encounter. One afternoon, as we prepared dinner together, Richard brushed against my arm. The contact sent a jolt through me, igniting a familiar longing. I stole a glance at him, and for a fleeting moment, our eyes locked, the world around us fading away. But reality crashed in, and I quickly averted my gaze, my heart pounding with the realization of what we had crossed into. Each interaction became a dance of avoidance and yearning, leaving me questioning everything. Could we ever go back to how things were? The line between family and desire blurred, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Keeping my secret became a heavy weight I could no longer bear. Each day felt like a masquerade, my smile masking the turmoil roiling beneath the surface. I found myself sitting at family dinners, laughter echoing around me, yet feeling utterly alone. Jamal's stories about work, his warmth, and affection made my heart ache with guilt. How could I continue this charade when every moment was tainted by what I had done? At one gathering, as I watched Jamal playfully tease our son, the joy on his face brought a lump to my throat. I felt like a ghost drifting through the evening while the truth clawed at my insides. The tension in my chest tightened, and every joke shared between family members felt like a dagger, reminding me of the betrayal I carried in silence. With every secret glance at Richard, I felt the walls closing in. I could almost hear the whispers of my conscience, urging me to confess, but fear paralyzed me. What would happen if Jamal found out? The thought terrified me, and I pushed it away, convincing myself that I could manage this on my own. Yet there came a moment of stillness in the chaos of my mind when I knew I had to confront this. I stood in our kitchen late one night, the weight of my decision pressing down on me like a physical force. The shadows danced around me, mirroring my turmoil. Should I tell Jamal about Richard? My heart raced at the thought. Every fiber of my being screamed for honesty, yet the fear of losing everything I held dear kept me frozen. The thrill of that kiss lingered, but the thought of hurting Jamal and shattering our family loomed larger. I stood at a crossroads, the path of truth laid out before me, but could I summon the courage to walk it? In that moment, I realized that continuing to hide would only lead to deeper wounds within myself and within my family. The choice was mine: face the consequences of my actions or allow the festering lie to grow. The clock ticked louder in my ears, and I knew I couldn't escape this forever. As days turned into weeks, the tension I felt began to seep into my daily life. Jamal, ever observant, started to pick up on the subtle changes in my demeanor. It was in the way he would pause mid-conversation, a flicker of concern in his eyes when I hesitated too long to answer a question. Was I too late? I could almost hear the gears of suspicion turning in his mind, and each moment felt like a countdown to inevitable discovery. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I caught Jamal watching me closely. He asked, "Is everything okay? You seem a little distant lately." I offered a forced smile, but the knot in my stomach tightened. Could he sense the storm I was trying to hide? I brushed off his concerns, but deep down I knew the truth was waiting in the shadows, ready to pounce. Then there were the small things, my phone buzzing incessantly with messages I couldn't bear to read in front of him. The tightness in my chest grew as I realized that each incoming text from Richard was a potential spark that could ignite a wildfire of revelations. I began to take precautions, deleting messages and ensuring my phone stayed close, a constant reminder of the precarious balance I was walking. But each deleted message only deepened my anxiety. I found myself hyper-aware of missed calls and notifications. What if Jamal glanced at my phone one day? What if he connected the dots? The thought sent chills down my spine. I was living a double life, and every unguarded moment felt like a thread unraveling, each clue a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. The fear of exposure loomed large, wrapping around me like a vice. I could only wonder how long could I keep the truth at bay before it surfaced, dragging everything I held dear into the light. The emotional landscape of our lives became a tangled web of desire and betrayal. I was caught in a storm of guilt, where each day felt heavier than the last. I could sense Jamal's loyalty, the way he worked tirelessly to provide for our family, yet here I was, shackled by a secret that threatened to sever the bonds we had built. I could see it in his eyes, an unwavering trust, blissfully unaware of the tempest raging within me. Richard, too, was not just the charming father figure, he was a man grappling with his own demons. Beneath his composed exterior lay a well of loneliness that perhaps drew him to me. Our stolen moments together had transformed into something neither of us intended, revealing the raw edges of desire that danced dangerously close to destruction. In the aftermath, it became clear that each of us carried the weight of unspoken emotions, longing for connection, yet terrified of the consequences. Richard's yearning for companionship, my hunger for validation, and Jamal's unwavering loyalty collided, creating a chaos that was difficult to unravel. Each character was flawed, battling their own insecurities and desires, and I couldn't help but feel a flicker of empathy for them all. How easy it was to slip into that gray area, where right and wrong blurred under the weight of human emotion. As I navigated this emotional maze, I realized that every choice we made stemmed from a place of vulnerability. In a world that often painted people in black and white, we were merely shades of gray, complex, imperfect, and achingly human. It was this understanding that haunted me, compelling me to confront the truth of our intertwined lives before the fragile threads that held us together snapped completely. The days following that fateful weekend were fraught with tension, each moment hanging in the balance like a fragile thread. The air was thick with unspoken truths, and I found myself navigating a minefield of emotions. Every encounter with Richard felt electric, charged with the weight of our secret. There were times when it felt like the universe was conspiring against us, teasing the brink of exposure at every turn. One evening, as we gathered for dinner, the atmosphere shifted. Jamal asked a seemingly innocent question about our weekend at the cabin. My heart raced, caught in the grip of fear as Richard and I exchanged a fleeting glance. That instant felt monumental, a single heartbeat where everything hung in the air. I could almost hear the ticking clock, counting down to a potential unraveling of everything I held dear. Then there was the day Richard and I were out shopping. We bumped into a family friend, a sharp-eyed woman who had always been quick to pick up on tension. I felt the color drain from my face as she engaged us in casual conversation, her gaze darting between us, searching for something beneath the surface. Just as I was about to let slip a nervous laugh, Richard deftly changed the subject, saving us from an impending disaster. Another close call came when I caught Richard's hand brushing against mine during a moment of laughter, both of us momentarily lost in our shared history. It was a fleeting touch, but the thrill of it sent a jolt through me. In that moment, I could sense the precariousness of our situation. Jamal walked in just as our eyes locked, the intensity of our connection almost palpable. I managed to smile, but inside I felt the world tilt on its axis, teetering closer to revelation. These near discoveries became a constant shadow in my life, heightening the stakes as I wrestled with the duality of my existence. Each day brought new challenges, threatening to expose the delicate balance I had tried so hard to maintain. The weight of my secret grew heavier, pressing down on me, urging me to confront the truth before it unraveled everything I loved. The moment of reckoning arrived when Jamal stepped out one evening, leaving Richard and me alone in the living room. An unspoken tension filled the air, each heartbeat echoing my fear. Richard turned to me, his voice steady yet urgent. Are we really going to pretend this didn't happen? I can't keep living this lie, I admitted, my heart racing. Richard nodded, the weight of my words sinking in. But what about Jamal? I whispered, feeling the gravity of his name. Our history together felt fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. The truth spilled out, raw and emotional, transforming our bond into a tangled web of regret. In the days that followed, the fallout was swift. Jamal returned home, unaware of the storm that had just passed. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension, and every glance exchanged with Richard felt like a reminder of our broken trust. Our relationships shifted dramatically. Jamal struggled to grasp the change, while Richard grew distant, the warmth between us replaced by uncertainty. Forgiveness seemed a distant hope, each step forward burdened by the scars of betrayal. As I reflected on my choices, one question haunted me: what does it truly mean to love and remain loyal? In seeking connection, had I sacrificed my family's foundation? Love is a complex dance of choices, capable of both joy and heartbreak. What would you do when faced with the delicate balance of loyalty and desire? This question lingers, inviting the audience to contemplate their own values in navigating love and family. As we reach the end of this tumultuous journey, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have confessed, or would you have buried the secret deep, hoping it would never surface? Each choice carries its weight, and your perspectives matter. Reflect on the choices that define us. What would your decision be? The complexity of trust and betrayal resonates differently for everyone, and I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss what loyalty truly means and how far we would go to protect the ones we love. Stay tuned for more gripping tales that delve into the intricate web of relationships, exploring themes of desire, loyalty, and the moral dilemmas we face. Each story promises to unravel new layers of the human experience, so don't forget to subscribe for more captivating narratives. As we close this chapter, consider this lingering question: can trust ever be fully restored once it's broken? The answers may vary, but one thing is certain: the impact of betrayal echoes far beyond the moment it occurs. Join me next time as we continue to explore the fragile nature of love and the choices that define our lives.